At FMK, at Freddie's Modern Kung Fu, what I aim to do is to figure out, find out one of the fittest person in the world, or to ever live. Not in the world, but the fittest human being to ever live. Now, is there such a thing? Well, in the Olympics, they will test people's abilities with their own little games. But what's interesting to me is to see who is pound for pound the fittest person in the world. Not in the world, but just all time. Well, not just one person, but just who are the fittest people in the world, or the fittest people that have ever lived, pound for pound. That is what's interesting to me. It has nothing to do with fighting for me. It has nothing to do with, how well somebody can knock somebody else out. For me, what's interesting is to see who's the fittest, who's the strongest pound for pound, who's very flexible, who's very fast, who has great endurance. That's what's interesting to me. Just the development overall, the whole body. See, bodybuilders are just concentrated on how they look. They go on stage and they do poses, and they are fully concentrated on how they look. I'm not interested in how a person looks. I'm interested in seeing pound for pound who is the most athletic. Now, this is free from muscle enhancement drugs, free from steroids, free from all that junk, but just eating natural foods and training hard day after day with real kung fu, and seeing who are the people that are the fittest in the world, that have a natural development, not with the muscle enhancement stuff. So not from competition, but through self-development. Not from what Lance Armstrong be doing, taking the steroids or testosterone. Not from what Sylvester Stallone from taking the steroids. Not from Arnold Schwarzenegger from taking the steroids. Not from, the people in the baseball that take the steroids. Not from the professional wrestlers that take the steroids. Not from the competitive bodybuilders that take the steroids. My interest is in the people who have natural development through natural eating, healthy eating, and hard training. Who are the fittest people in the world? Now, you can only trust yourself and what you do. When somebody that you don't know, or somebody that you see on television that's in great shape, and they tell you that it's all natural, how do you possibly know that they're telling the truth? You will never know. All you know is your own development. You know yourself whether or not you're taking steroids. You know yourself whether or not you're taking creatine. You know yourself whether or not you're taking andro. You know yourself if you're taking any of that muscle enhancement drugs to be able to help you perform the way that you do. Only you know. So when you know the truth from within, and you keep training to better yourself, and you know that you're doing this way natural, you know that you're not taking steroids, you know you're not taking all this junk, this enhancement stuff, you're just training naturally to get the best that you can. Only you know yourself whether or not you're staying true. And based on your own development, it doesn't have to be competing with anybody else, but it's just a game of numbers to see how far you can take your body based on numbers. So meaning, you can run the mile yourself, time yourself. You don't need to run against somebody else. You time yourself, you run that mile, say you run that mile in 5 minutes. You could always test yourself with that time to get better than that. So next time you try to run in 4 minutes. You constantly keep running until you better yourself. You don't have to run against somebody else. When it comes to running, that's pound for pound. So that's something where, pound for pound, who is the fastest? Other things, such as pull-ups, that's pound for pound. Who can pull up their weight above that bar the most times? And you don't need to compete with somebody else. One day you test yourself, you do 40. Next day you try to do 45. Day after that you try to do 50. Day after that you keep going until you try to get to 100. Once you get to 100, try to do 200. That's pound for pound. Your vertical jump, you could test your own vertical jump to see how high you could jump. One day you jump 2 feet. Next day you aim for 3 feet. Day after that you aim for 4 feet. Until you keep going and going until you can reach your ultimate potential. And that's another thing that's pound for pound. Push-ups is another thing that's pound for pound. How many push-ups can you do consecutively? What else is pound for pound? Bench pressing your own weight. You weigh 200 pounds, throw on 200 pounds in that bar and see how many times you can bench press that. One day you do it 10 times, next day you do it 20 times, next day you do it 30 times, 40 times, 50 times, 60 times, 100 times, 200 times. So these are numbers. These are tests to show how strong you really are. When it comes to flexibility, how low can you get on the ground when it comes to the splits? The front splits, middle splits, butterfly stretch, arm stretching. Dips is another one that's pound for pound. How many dips can you do? Do 40 today, 60 tomorrow, 80 the next day, 100. Can you get to 200? Can you get to 300? These numbers is never ending. You can always do more. So there's no need to be competing with other people. You're essentially trying to test your own body to see how far you can get. How fit can you possibly be while training natural? And only you know whether or not you're training naturally. I know how I'm training. I know what I'm putting in my body. I know for a fact that what I'm doing, I'm not taking any of this stuff. I'm trying to better myself in a natural way, in a healthy way, not to compete with other people, but to essentially to see how far I can take my human body, to see how far I can take it through hard work, through training. And that's what I'm interested to see. I'm not interested in the special effects in the movies to make, people do things that they can't possibly do in real life. Like the Matrix type stuff. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in the people in the fitness magazines that are airbrushing their bodies to make them look nicer. I'm not interested in the bodybuilders who are taking all those steroids. Even the bodybuilders that don't take steroids. I'm not interested in the people that have muscles that look that I'm not interested in people who look like they're strong but they're not really strong. My thing is about performance. And who is the fittest? Who are the fittest people in the world? Now, you watch the Olympics, but some people don't even have to be in the Olympics. But you see some of these gymnasts, they do amazing things. They're critiqued based on the perfection of a certain routine. But really, who is the fittest? They might perform a certain routine pretty nicely and get good scores, but it doesn't mean that they're the fittest person in the world. Now, I've been, talking about this guy on YouTube, the Hannibal guy, which pretty much everybody should know, millions of views. He's not in the Olympics, but he's on YouTube, and he has millions of views, and you can clearly see that he took his body to a very high level. Now, whether or not he's taking muscle enhancement drugs and things like that, only person that knows is him. But you can clearly see that the best athletes, or the most fittest people in the world, they're not necessarily at the Olympics. They're not necessarily in the football field. They're not necessarily on the basketball court. They're not necessarily in Hollywood movies. They're not necessarily out there in the commercialized industry at all. So when I bring this guy Hannibal up for an example, he's clearly at a very high level in what he does. But he's not in the Olympics. He's not in any of the professional sports. And really, he doesn't even have to be on YouTube. So there's a potential, there's always a possibility, there's clearly a possibility that there exists people who are extremely fit that you cannot find. Not on YouTube, not in the Hollywood movies, not in the professional sports, not in the Olympics. But they could potentially be beyond all of that. They could be more fit, more athletic than everything that you've ever seen out there before. But you just don't know about them. They're unknown. And that's what I call mystical. You know, people that have mystical kung fu. Unknown. But I put myself out there. Clearly, I'm making all these videos showing what I'm capable of doing right now. And I will keep training and training to see how far I can take myself as a whole development. So when it comes to the shoulder presses, military press, who could military press their own weight the most times? I'm talking about your own weight, so that's pound for pound. So if you weigh 200 pounds, see if you can load on 200 pounds onto that bar and press it up as many times as you can. Who could do it the most times? Who could do the most handstand push-ups? Who could do the most full plank push-ups? Who could bicep curl their own weight the most times that they can? I mean, these are all ways I'm coming up with these exercises to demonstrate pound for pound challenges. Because it's based on you. It's not based on the next person, but it's based on you. So your body, see how far you can take your body. And that's where I'm really interested in. And that's where I'm focusing most of the yang energy of this kun to head towards that self-development. Not in seeing who can knock somebody else out. That has nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do with you and somebody else. It's about you and how far you can take yourself. And no matter how far you can always get better. So you might be able to run a 3-minute mile, but why can't you run it in 2 minutes? Why can't you run it in 1 minute? Why can't you run it in 30 seconds? You can always do better. You might be able to jump 4 feet high, but why can't you jump 5 feet high? Why not 6 feet? Why not 7 feet? You might be able to bench press double your weight, but why can't you bench press 3 times your weight? Why can't you bench press 4 times your weight? You might be able to do 100 pull-ups. Why can't you do 200? You can always take yourself to the next level. It's a never-ending journey. And with this kun, with FMK, I want to keep track of the people within the kun who can take themselves to the highest level through natural development, free from competition. This is not the Olympics. And you don't got to wait 4 years to test yourself. You can test yourself right now. Throw on the video, that's your test. You can test yourself tomorrow, you can test yourself at any time of the day. Constantly training yourself to see how far you can take yourself. Every day is a test. At FMK, every single day is a test. You don't gotta wait for a competition. You don't gotta wait for a bunch of people to come watch you. You don't gotta wait for the Olympics to come around. No, you test every single day. Or whenever you feel like testing, that's when you test. And see how far you can take yourself. In a healthy way. Not from those muscle enhancement drugs, not from hurting yourself, not from trying to bench press something that you can't do and then you drop it in your chest. Not in hurting your back because you're trying to squat the most that you can. Talking about training yourself in a healthy, safe manner, free from all this muscle enhancement crap that's out there. Who is the fittest? That's what I'm interested in.